Carl have a presentation of some kind you're going to do?
Yeah, I think that was next.
Okay. Well, I've been working with the legislature since about 1990, and we got a bill passed 50-0 in the Senate in '93, and it was pretty much the same bill that Joe Bolcom and Bruce Hunter have introduced, very similar. And the bills never go anywhere, just like this year. And so I just thought, you know, what is it about Iowa that makes us different than the other states? Well, we don't have a voter initiative, for one thing, so we can't go out and get a ballot initiative on the ballot and get people to vote and override the legislature and the governor that way. And I can't think what else, but we just don't have anything that we can really do. So I thought, you know, what could we do in Iowa that would actually be achievable? And so I decided to go after the Board of Pharmacy. And I went there because the U.S. Supreme Court in 2006 said that the use of controlled substances is a state decision. It's not a federal decision. It's decided by the states. What's lawful and isn't lawful under federal law is decided by state law. And every federal law is different. Some laws, federal supremacy. Congress can preempt state law if they want to, but if they don't want to, then states retain residual sovereignty to make the decision. And so I never thought about it before, but I thought, man, if controlled substances are determined by the state, then that means that the classification at the federal level saying it has no accepted medical use and treatment in the United States is incorrect. So I filed a petition with the Board of Pharmacy and told them, look here, it says in the Iowa law the same thing it says in federal law. Marijuana has no accepted medical use and treatment in the United States. If you find that to be untrue, you have to recommend the legislature reclassify it. And they rejected my case, and I went to the court, and the court said that they violated some technical thing and sent it back to them. And so I presented the same argument again, and then I kept suing them in court. While I was doing that, for some reason they decided they were going to look at science, because my argument was a legal argument. It wasn't based on science, it was based on law. Marijuana has accepted medical use in 12 states, therefore it has accepted medical use and treatment in the United States, because 12 states said it does, and the Supreme Court decision says the states have the authority to make that decision under federal law. So it's, and so they decided to look at the science, and they held 4 months of public hearings, and after that they ruled unanimously that marijuana is medicine based on science, recommended that the legislature remove it from Schedule 1, and the Supreme Court dismissed my lawsuit saying it was moot because they had made the recommendation that I asked them to make, even though they didn't make it on the legal argument that I presented them. They made it on some other, on science instead of law, that because they did what I asked them to do, I couldn't maintain a lawsuit against them. So the end result is that they did do what I asked them to do, and they did rule unanimously, and it's never been done in the United States before, and I wouldn't have done that here if we were making progress in some other area, but we weren't, and I wanted to do something that would work, and this did work. So I have a lawsuit pending against the Board of Pharmacy because I told them I wanted them to do it a second time, and they said, we don't have to do it again, the legislature's ignored it. And that means that it's done and we don't have any further obligation. My argument is that the law says if marijuana doesn't meet the condition, the board shall recommend it be removed. Since the legislature hasn't changed anything, the condition is still there, marijuana is still misclassified, the duty of the board to recommend reclassification hasn't gone away. And I've got a lawyer now representing me who volunteered to take the case. He's on the NORML legal committee, and so now I've got legal representation, and he's finding stuff that he's looking into this harder than I would have, and he's doing a better job on it than I would have done on my own. And so I told him this meeting was here today, but I told him that it hadn't been widely publicized, and that I would have suggested that he travel down here from Clear Lake to participate, but because the meeting wasn't widely publicized, I thought that we should, next time we should have a meeting, we should widely publicize it, and that I would ask him to come and participate. So.
Who's the lawyer?
Colin Murphy. And the way I found out about him is that he just contacted me and said he wanted to sue the Board of Pharmacy. Like before I filed the second lawsuit against the Board of Pharmacy, he said he wanted to do that. And I said, well, yeah, but I'm the one that filed the petition with the board, and I'm the one that got all the medical experts to come and testify. And if the case isn't set up like that, the lawyer isn't going to just make the case out of nothing. It has to be set up right. So I told him to wait, and I contacted NORML. Paul Armentano helped me, and I contacted Patients at a Time. I'm on their advisory board. And I contacted a bunch of different doctors, people who I can't name that work for GW Pharmaceuticals, the ones that make Sativex. And the doctor that filed the petition for the state of Washington with the DEA, Dr. Greg Carter, Dr. Sunil Agrawal, the one that got the AMA to endorse it. I contacted all these people and told them, I want to do this again, give me all the scientific evidence. So the second petition that I filed last year is all the evidence, science that there is happened since 2009, since the last time they did this. So, and then I got denied, and now the attorney is representing me on that. But he contacted me and wanted to help, or just wanted to get involved. So that was impressive to me. And I have a federal case going on with the DEA, the same argument, and I've got an attorney that just agreed to take that to the U.S. Supreme Court. I just got knocked out of the D.C. Circuit on that one, and now I have an attorney that's taken that to the U.S. Supreme Court. His name is Matt Pappas, and he is an attorney for a bunch of dispensaries out in California. He has a case pending in the U.S. Supreme Court right now. He got a split decision in the Ninth Circuit. His argument is that the city of Costa Mesa discriminated against his clients because they closed a bunch of dispensaries and that they violated the Americans with Disabilities Act. And the government says, no, marijuana is a controlled substance, the Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't cover it. And he says, no, wait a minute, this is a separate law. It defines legal use of controlled substances under the care of a licensed healthcare professional. The medical use of marijuana in California is under the care of a licensed healthcare professional, and it meets the definition set in the ADA. The ADA is a newer law than the Controlled Substances Act. The definitions in the ADA are broader than they are under the Controlled Substances Act, and there's no way that the Americans with Disabilities Act is restricted by the Controlled Substances Act. And he got a split decision. One of the judges actually agreed with that argument. So he's in the U.S. Supreme Court right now, and he just sent me the government's brief, and I haven't read it yet, but he wants to take my case because my argument is kind of similar, that the federal drug law was never meant to prohibit the legal use of drugs, and the use of marijuana is legal in 18 states, and the federal drug law doesn't contemplate making something illegal that's legal under state law, because it only deals with abuse, recreational abuse, not use under a healthcare professional. So I've got these state and federal cases going. I've got attorneys that have volunteered to to represent me in both of them. And it's the same argument based on Gonzalez versus Oregon, a U.S. Supreme Court case. But all of this helps me because while we're lobbying for this stuff here in Iowa and trying to get these legislators to do something, I've got the Iowa Department of Public Health filing a bill in the Iowa legislature saying reclassifying marijuana as medicine. The legislature didn't do anything with it, but I complained to Senator Bolcom about it and said, why aren't you doing anything about that? And he said, I didn't know about it. And I said, are you kidding? I saw you at the hearings. How can you say you didn't know about this? I met you at the pharmacy board hearings. And he said, I didn't know that they'd filed a bill. And I said, yeah, they filed a bill in 2010. It's Senate Study Bill 1016. He said, I've never seen that. And I said, well, that's just unbelievable. Would you introduce that bill? So he tacked it onto his bill earlier in January, and it's different than Hunter's bill. Hunter's bill doesn't have it. And I don't want Hunter to do it for the reasons I explained earlier. what I want Bolcom to do is split that bill into two pieces so that the Pharmacy Board Department of Public Health bill is separate from the dispensary, homegrown, and caregiver bill. Because what the Department of Public Health wants to do is make it a prescription medicine, which it is not in any of the 18 states. Marijuana is not legally prescribed anywhere in the United States. The Iowa Department of Public Health wants it to be a prescription medicine. And that doesn't jive with homegrown caregivers and dispensaries. There are two different approaches to the same problem. Now, if Iowa decides to reclassify marijuana as prescription only, the federal government's going to be a roadblock because it can't be prescribed without federal authorization. So that puts the pressure on the federal government to acknowledge under Gonzalez versus Oregon that the state has the right to make the decision on the scheduling. And the federal government cannot refuse to cooperate with a state that wants to make a prescription, which no state has ever done before. So we put Iowa in a position of having a really terrific federal lawsuit against the federal government. And I have attorneys who are willing to take this case if the state won't do it. But the other thing is if the federal government won't cooperate, then we're right back to the homegrown caregiver and dispensary bill. Like, we tried to do it the right way, the federal government is violating the law, let's pass the access bill, homegrown caregivers and dispensaries. If the federal government won't cooperate, we'll just do what the other 19 jurisdictions have done and do the same thing. But once marijuana is reclassified as medicine in Iowa, we're not arguing about something that's good for nothing, we're arguing about something that's officially recognized under state law as medicine. It makes a lot more sense to complain about the lack of access to something that's actually classified as medicine than it does something that's just a substance of abuse that has no purpose. So my whole agenda between now and January is to get Senator Bolcom to split that bill, to pass the Public Health Department bill, which is the first 20 lines of Senate File 79 as a separate bill, pass it through the subcommittee, pass it out of the committee, pass it through the Senate. The president of the Senate tells me that she supports this, and them off. And they will want to vote against these people because look at this Clell Bodler guy, a 32-year veteran of the Iowa State Patrol. He has no medical experience whatsoever. His family's got the highest incidence of cancer I've ever heard of. Living in Greenfield, they must use a hell of a lot of atrazine there or whatever. And he's saying that he would put the health of the Iowa people in the hands of law enforcement instead of the Iowa Department of Public Health. He didn't go to a law enforcement officer for treatment of cancer. He went to a healthcare professional. So he's a double standard. So this is the issue I want to see in the 2014 election. I don't think we're going to get anything between now and then, but we could sure frame the issue for the election in 2014. And this is one of those things that I think we could just beat the pants off of them with because it's so clean.
Which Senate bill is that?
Senate File 79. And it's identical to House File 22 except for the first 20 lines. It's a 26-page bill instead of Hunter's 25-page bill. It's just got 20 additional lines, and those 20 lines are written by the Iowa Department of Public Health, and they don't support the rest of that bill. They don't support the homegrown, the caregivers, the dispensaries. So here we are tying these two things together, and every time it comes up for debate, the opposition says, well, we don't like the homegrown, we don't like the caregivers, we don't like the dispensaries, we don't want people driving on this stuff, we don't want people using it around kids. Putting it in Schedule 2, like the Iowa Department of Public Health wants to do, doesn't make it available because it's still a federal Schedule 1. So there's no driving, there's no kids exposed to it, there's absolutely nothing for them to argue against. Except we don't like the Iowa Department of Public Health's unanimous ruling. Good. Go ahead and make that case for the election. See if you can run on that and get elected. So that's my whole thing. I've been working really hard on that, and I'm amazed that I haven't got a commitment from Senator Bolcom to split that bill. If I were to ask him why he hasn't responded to me, he'd say, well, we're tied up on health care and education, and we're locked up, and nothing else is moving. We're not talking about anything else except health care and education right now.
Same thing they talk about every year.
But
Yeah.
marijuana is healthcare and education.
I mean, I've been going to those legislative forum things for over a decade, and that's always the same thing. That's all.
True, yeah, this is
it's all the
nothing
same
new.
crap.
Yeah.
You know,
It's done on purpose to lock us out, yeah. I mean, yeah, so we have to realize that there's nothing unusual going on. This is what they do to lock us out, and it's very effective. They know it, so they got away with it so many times now, they don't even hesitate. They know that works, so they're gonna do that. What we have to do is take this into the election, because we're not going to win it in the House and Senate right now. I mean, the Senate will pass this for us, they'll do it. They will pass this bill. They have enough votes to do it, and they will do it. But we have to tell them why we're doing it, because we want to make this an issue in the next election, and they will love that, because they vote for medical marijuana, they know they're gonna get those votes.
I also noticed that when they mentioned the pharmacy as a system, during the time that you were fighting this, I could already tell that they were doing it to stalemate. Because, first of all, they're just going from their narrow point of view, oh, we have to have a pharmacy because they push out drugs. Well, they weren't being receptive. And then when they talked about it, they kept harping on it. Then before a committee, they said, well, we can't possibly do all this. We don't know how to set up a system like that. And they weren't asking for that. We were just asking to have the right for a doctor to recommend, not build up a whole pharmacy, not build up a system, to recommend to a patient, and at least have enough compassion so if that patient gets caught with their medicine, oh, you need it for medicine, and not make a big deal of it, have them under a compassion care protection. And they just kept harping on, well, we need pharmacies. And then they acted like, how can we ever do this? It was so emotional.
Just to give a simple example, like say somebody introduced a bill, and in that bill there was legalization and decriminalization. Now, if you legalize marijuana, what is decriminalization going to do? They don't belong together. They're two separate things. You either have decriminalization or legalization. You don't have both. So what we need to do is have more options on the table, and we don't want all these things combined into one bill. We should have one bill that's the Department of Public Health bill. We should have another one that's the caregivers, homegrown, and dispensaries. We should have another one for decrim, another one for legalization, one for hemp. Make sure all these issues should be debated on their own merits, because when you combine them, then people will start arguing against pieces of them, and other parts just get ignored. So that's really bad to combine these issues that way. And what happened is when I asked Senator Bolcom to do this, he said, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't know he would stick it into his existing bill. It just blew me away. And after he did that, I just thought, man, I better thank him, because he did something for me. I didn't think to tell him, you idiot, what did you put it in the bill for? So now I'm kind of coming, and it worked out great because Senator Courtney got a bypass surgery and wasn't there to cast the deciding vote, and they had to put the whole thing on the table till next year. So everything's working fine. They can't pass it without Senator Courtney. He's a co-sponsor. We just need to make sure that we get this bill divided into two bills before January, and we're not going to get them to listen to a word we say between now and June. And after June, we need to go full force on these people, and I'm going to call them all and say, I'll meet with you anywhere. I'll travel the state. Anywhere you're willing to have a cup of coffee with me or meet with me, we need to talk, and I'm not going to stop hammering them between now and January till I get a commitment. And I want a commitment from Bolcom. I want a commitment from Amanda Reagan is the chair of the Committee on Health and Human Services. That's the bill. That's the committee this bill is in. Amanda Reagan is the chair. And I want a commitment from Pam Yoakum, the president of the Senate. And I want a commitment from Mike Gronstal, who's the Democratic Majority Leader. And Gronstal is the man. I mean, and he wrote a college thesis on legalizing marijuana, for God's sake. This guy, when I talked to him at a public forum, he said, oh, medical marijuana is going to happen because Obama wants it. And I just thought, okay. So, but, you know, we need to give them the argument that this is politically safe. This is the most safest vote you'll ever make in your life. It's a unanimous ruling from the Iowa Department of Public Health. only an idiot would oppose it, and there will be a bunch of idiots opposing it, and if the Democrats can say they just went with the Department of Public Health because it was the most conservative proposal ever made in the United States on medical marijuana, and it's consistent with the way the system is set up, it goes within the system instead of around the system. It's just beautiful. Giving myself credit for that.
Maybe we need like an information packet that puts all that, we need an information packet that puts all that together in something that's pretty simple, concise,
It
and make
should
sure
be
all
really
of them get it,
simple.
you know?
It should be really
Yeah.
simple. It should, I mean, and I hate to do this, but we need to contrast this with what the 19 jurisdictions have done. They haven't gone through the system, they've gone around it. Of course, nobody realized that it was possible to go through the system, so give them a break. And it probably wasn't possible. The reason I had success is because by the time I came up with the strategy, the ball was already moved. It was inevitable. The reason why I was so successful is I gave them an opportunity to get back in the game. I gave the Iowa Board of Pharmacy the opportunity, since they could see medical marijuana was just coming no matter what, I gave them the opportunity to take control of it, and they jumped on it. Now we'll see if they can, if the DEA will jump on it. Nah, will never happen. But we've already got, I mean, that's what we need to do. We need to get the state of Iowa to tell the DEA, you're full of shit. We have the right to do this. You have no right to interfere with us. And by doing it this way through the Controlled Substances Act instead of around the Controlled Substances Act, we can fit right into this Gonzalez versus Oregon decision where the Supreme Court said a regulatory administrator, the DEA, has no authority to override a state law with an administrative regulation. Congress has to do it. It's not within the authority of an agency to take on power that Congress has never set a national standard on the accepted medical use of marijuana. It's a state decision. Congress never said thou shalt not accept the medical use of marijuana, and that's what it would take to invoke federal supremacy. Congress would have to decide the issue and take that power away from the states, and they haven't done it.
Now, isn't there a hypocrisy going on here with the District of Columbia now having medical marijuana?
No.
They tried to hold back the funds, but they had to get a court.
And I heard Puerto Rico is working on it, and since Puerto Rico is a federal territory, that's going to be a different perspective than whether it's one of the states are doing it.
If you
know?
agree that federal territories have more say in our system of government than states, I don't know. I have to send you back to school.
But it's just what you were saying, how Congress has the authority to, so Congress is supposed to set the law, but through administrative order, they just seem to blow the hell out of
When
whatever
Congress
says, you know?
determines that a local jurisdiction can make its own rules, that doesn't mean that federal law is invalid in that jurisdiction. It's still a federal crime. It doesn't, Congress is not telling DC, you can make federal law for the whole United States. That's the flaw in that argument, and I've heard that argument, and it's just garbage. And so, I mean, and it invalidates my argument. Like, if you think that DC and Puerto Rico make the argument, then obviously California and all these other 18 states don't. Because if they did, you wouldn't need DC and Puerto Rico to make the argument. So it's one or the other. Either the states have the right to decide what has accepted medical use in the United States, or for some reason a territory, if Congress says you can make your own local laws, somehow that has the impact of changing the law in all 50 states. It doesn't. So, but boy, that argument's out there, and I just can't. The attorney in this case, the ADA case that I was talking about, that's going to take my argument to the U.S. Supreme Court, he made that argument. He made that argument that you just made in that case. And of course, he's not appealing on that because he didn't get one judge to agree with it. And they did a really good job. You should read the decision because they really explained why he was wrong. And they just did a spectacular job. And so he's not taking that issue to the U.S. Supreme Court. He dropped it.
Yeah.
But he argued that one. If you want to know the history of home rule in D.C., just read the guy and the Barr Amendment, you know, that Congress passed saying that D.C. couldn't enact that voter initiative. and the repeal of the bar amendment.
That's a whole strange deal too, how Bob Barr did a flip-flop on that, you know.
Well, thank God for
Yeah.
people waking up and,
Yep.
and seeing the truth. Yeah, so. Anyway, that's where I'm at, and that's how it all translates. That's a lot of stuff to digest, but it translates to a very simple little thing to do here in Iowa between now and January. Get that bill split into 2 bills, get a clean vote on both halves of it, and take that to the election. And caucus.
But yeah, we need some sort of a nice, concise little packet that we can send out all the lawmakers and say, this is a wise decision to act this way. You're not, you know.
Yeah, and I'm hoping between now and then that I can successfully sue the Board of Pharmacy again and get the Iowa Department of Public Health to file to do the same thing again and file a brand new bill. And that will, if I'm successful with that, I mean, right now we can still say they did that in 2010 and that it still stands, but if we can get that between now and January, a ruling that they still recommend that and recommend it again, and that they will keep recommending it until the legislature listens to it, because the legislature didn't give them the option of not doing it. They said, you will recommend a change. So but it's a simple argument. The Iowa Department of Public Health voted unanimously for this. And once we get the agreement that they'll vote on it, these people are for it and these people are against it. The people that are for it are consistent with our system of law. The people that are against it are practicing medicine without a license. Club Adler. Club Adler's statement at the public hearing was, I still don't understand the Iowa Board of Pharmacy's support for medical marijuana, and I sure as hell don't agree with it. Well, he should be...
He's no
He
medical doctor.
should be beaten the next election for that. I mean, that's not right. I mean,
That's what we need, an organized effort in his district somehow to
Well-
attack him, you know.
you know, that's what people say about Steve King, but he's unbeatable in that
Yeah.
district. Like, I don't know if he can run for Senate and get elected, but he can sure get elected.
And that's another whole thing that's coming out with Harkin stuff on the side. Who's gonna prevail in that, you know?
Well, Bruce Braley.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
You know that in Congress has voted on medical marijuana 6 times in the last 8 years or so. And Braley's only had the opportunity to vote on it twice, I believe. Voted against it both times.
Yeah, I talked to him in person about that, and he goes, well, I made a mistake. I meant to vote for it, but I was confused on what I was voting for. And I go, yeah, okay.
He voted against it again after that.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yep, and Loebsack voted for it.
Mhm.
The only congressman in Iowa to vote for medical marijuana, Dave Loebsack. And I thanked him for it personally. I don't like Braley.